senior guitar. I'm dedicating this video to 3 friends of mine, Charlie, John, and Glenn, who are starting their guitar adventure in their mid-60s. You can start this at any age. I started at 61, and that was 5 years ago. So I have basically 5 points that I hope will make your adventure a little bit easier. Okay, point number 1 is the basic equipment, and that usually will be a guitar and perhaps an amp. And what kind of a guitar should you get? Well, you might get something like a classical guitar. Depending on what kind of music you want to play, it also has nylon strings, a little easier on the fingers, and you can get them fairly inexpensively. So a classical, you'll never go wrong with a classical guitar. Nice to have in your collection. Probably the most common way to go is an acoustic steel string, such as this one. This is a Seagull guitar from the Godin group. Now the steel strings will be a little bit harder on your fingers initially, but after a month or 2 it won't be a problem. And the third choice, obviously, is the electric guitar. And again, does it really matter what kind of electric guitar? No, it doesn't. As long as you get one of reasonable quality that's set up properly. This one is in the Telecaster shape. It's got great sound. Some limitations would be you pretty much need an amp of some kind, and it's not as portable. It's a little harder to take to the beach and play. But otherwise, it's just fine as a beginner guitar. And the other thing you'll need is an amp. And here are my 2 amps. I've got my little Fender amp here, which is just an excellent little amp. And I've done a separate video on that and how it works. It's a modeling amp, so lots of different sounds on it. And then I would say probably upgraded to this Boss 100-watt amp. And it's a little bit ridiculous for my little room here. So do you need a 100-watt amp? Absolutely not. But it does give good sound. So on the amp side, if you need an amp, either with your acoustic, electric, or your electric guitar, probably the smaller, cheaper amp to start with, and you can probably find them for $50 or $60, even used would be fine. And point number 2 are accessories that you will need to help with your guitar journey. And let's start with tuners. Your guitar is going to have to stay in tune or be in tune, and there's basically 2 main types. This is a chromatic tuner. The advantage to this one is if you have an electric guitar, you can actually plug it in. It's very, very accurate. And this is probably the most common, the clip-on tuner, and they're very inexpensive. You can get them for about $15. And they're both very easy to use, so easy to keep your guitar in tune. The next thing is a capo. Capo basically just changes the key of the guitar you're playing without having to do bar chords or all kinds of fancy things. You just put this on whatever fret the song is being played in. So very useful, particularly if you want to replicate songs you've heard or follow a song on YouTube. You need a capo. You probably need some guitar picks. You don't have to use guitar picks. Use your fingers. They come in all different thicknesses. And generally speaking, the more beginner the player, the thinner the guitar pick. So this one here is it's a Dunlop, and it says 46 millimeters, so 46 millimeters is 0.46 millimeters. This one's 0.6. This one's quite thick at 1.5 millimeters, so it has virtually no bend at all. Generally, the more experienced guitar players use the thicker picks and the beginners find it easier to start with the thinner one. So I would recommend the 0.5 around there to start with. And you can also get specialty picks that actually give you a different sound. So my daughter gave me these. So this is a wooden pick, and this is a stone pick. This is a very gorgeous thing, but obviously there's not much flex in that. So probably a pick or two, and they're just a few cents each. The next thing you might want is a music stand. So I'll just show you this one from the back. And they're about $50, brand new. I would get a good one, not a cheap one. Why do you need a music stand if you can't read music? Well, you might have lyrics, you might have tab. You can put your accessories on the music stand. You can put, just keeps everything handy. Highly recommend a music stand. The other thing is a guitar stand. So you can see this stand over here with the guitar. It has a couple of advantages. The main one being your guitar is handy. In fact, if you're tripping over it, you're probably more likely to pick it up and play it. If it's up on a wall or in a case, out of sight, out of mind, you're probably not going to play it as much. Highly recommend a guitar stand. Plus it looks really cool in the room. What else do we need? We need, I wouldn't say really a need, but some kind of a footrest really does help stabilize the guitar in your hands. These are not expensive, available at any music store. Some people might use just the edge of their guitar case if they had that, or it doesn't really matter. Something that gives you, 6 to 8 inches of clearance from the ground. Highly recommended as well. So that's just a few of the accessories to get you started. Point number 3, learn some basic guitar maintenance. Basic guitar maintenance will make the playing experience much better and will also protect your instruments. So an example might be a truss rod adjustment. The metal rod that's in most guitars. Some of the classical guitars won't have one, but most guitars will have one. Really important to know how to adjust it. It's not complicated, but it can make the experience of the strings along the fretboard much better. Another one might be an example of how to change strings. It sounds easy. It is pretty easy. But it's really important to know how to do it and when to do it. The other thing is things like humidity and temperature, how it affects your guitar. So a room like I'm in now, if you're out in the prairies, for instance, where it's very dry, very cold, you probably might need a humidifier of some kind, whether it's in a guitar case or it's in the room. About 50% humidity is ideal and maintained throughout the year. So if you're a very humid area, you might need a dehumidifier to affect the 50%. Putting oil on the fretboard, for instance, will make it last for forever, virtually. So very basic things. How do you find out about these things? Well, YouTube is great. Maybe your guitar instructor, maybe a friend. But anyway, that's number 3, basic guitar maintenance. And point number 4 is instruction. Try to find ideally an in-person instructor. You will learn much quicker and you'll be more motivated to continue with an in-person instructor. If that's unavailable for some reason, YouTube has some great instruction online, some free and some for money. Probably the best free one I've seen is Justin Guitar. Easy to find. He has over 1 million subscribers. He has a great course online, justinguitar.com. If you're looking for an instructor and you're in the, say, Dartmouth, Fall River, Nova Scotia area, notify me because I have a great instructor there. And point number 5 is practice, and practice effectively. So what's the best way to practice when you first pick up a guitar? Well, one caution is don't play too much at one time. Your fingers are going to hurt, and if you hurt them too much, you won't be able to play for a few days. So playing for 10 to 15 minutes every day is much better than playing for 2 hours and then not being able to play for another week. So you want to build your calluses up in your fingers gradually and the muscles in your fingers gradually. So 10 to 15 minutes a day, and maybe after a week you can go to 20 minutes and then maybe to 30. Next thing you know, you'll be playing for an hour and your fingers won't be sore at all. So start short time and frequent. That's much better. So what are you going to do when you sit down with a guitar and you can't do anything? You don't know what to play. Well, I started with the chromatic scale. Chromatic scale being playing every note. And basically you position your fingers on the first 4 frets. So obviously 1 on the first fret, 2 on the second, third, and then fourth. And you're basically just going to play every note, and slowly. Something like this. And then go back. So that's a great scale for also the muscles and for the fingers. And that's a good warm-up as well, even when you're more experienced. The other thing you want to get used to probably is a couple of other scales, like the C scale, for instance, and you can start it on C. So it starts on the A string, so A. But there's C. We just go up. And there's lots of other scales you can learn as well, but just the basics of getting your fingers moving. If you've heard of Daryl Braun guitar, early on in his videos, he's got some great exercises I would highly recommend. And then when you get to playing chords, your fingers will be moving much easier, and you'll have built up a little bit of callus. On the Justin guitar, they'll start you on really easy chords, such as E minor, A, D, G, and how to change between them. We won't get into that here, but just a little bit at a time, try to learn one new thing every day. So that's my 5 points for a senior beginner guitar. So hope you've learned something. Pick something up. Maybe you have some pointers for whoever views this, so add them in the comments. Or add your adventure with the guitar. I'd like to hear from you. Thanks for watching.